Hello everyone, in today's vlog episode, I would love to share with you this really cute potholder project. It comes with this lovely pumpkin applique to complement the autumn theme. This will come really handy in your kitchen to handle the pots and pans. You can also use this as the oven hot pad, just like oven mitts, as long as you have a pair of this. There is an optional hanging loop at the back. I also created the solid version so you can make this in any theme and any color that you like. Very versatile, and it will make a great Christmas gift as well. So without further ado, let's jump straight into it. First, we're gonna print out and assemble the pattern. As usual, we need to line up the alphabet oval here. So make sure that the alphabet are matched. And don't forget to test the square. Fold back one page's margin, or you can also cut it instead. And then slide the other page behind it. And of course, you want to make sure that everything is aligned and there is no overlaps. I've already assembled my pattern, so this one is for the hand pocket, and this one is the main body, and this one is for the pumpkin applique. Alright, for the main fabric, I'm going to use this beautiful batik that I get from Indonesia. I think this vibrant orange color will be perfect for this autumn season. Cut two pieces for the main body, one for the front and one for the back. Also cut two pieces for the hand pocket. If you opt for the applique, make sure that the fabric for the hand pocket will contrast the fabric that you're gonna use for the applique. In this case, I choose this solid black. Cut one piece of batting, 100% cotton batting for the hand pocket. And for the main body, we're gonna cut one piece of cotton batting and also an insulated batting. Now let's work on the pumpkin applique. So I've got here the templates already cut out. I apply a little bit of basting glue on the wrong side of the template and then stick it on the wrong side of the fabric and then cut following the template. For the stem, I use a different fabric, so here's a scrap of batik fabric which has greenish gray color, which is going to be perfect for the stem. Now I'm going to layer the front hand pocket panel with the batting, secure with a couple of pins at the top and the bottom as well. And then we're going to arrange the applique. So we're gonna start by placing piece 1, 2, and 3. Place them on a slight angle. Don't think too much about it as of now. Now we're gonna assess the placement for the number 4 pieces. So I'm gonna take one and then overlap it with piece 1, and then take a second one and overlap it with the piece 2, and then take the last one and place that around the center. So you can see the pumpkin forming. Feel free to rearrange the position until you're happy with it. Alright, I'm pretty happy with how my pumpkin looks at this point. Make sure that your pieces are not too close to the edges. You want to have at least 3/4 of an inch distance from the edges. Now I'm going to base this applique with my basting glue stick. Starting from the stem, I'm going to apply a little bit of glue on the wrong side and then place that back to the same position. Now I'm gonna remove the piece 4 and then base piece 1 and 2. Now I'm gonna base and position the pieces 4. And there you go. Now let's go to the sewing machine and stitch this applique in place. So we're gonna stitch all the raw edges of the applique, starting from the center part here. I use the applique stitching setting from my machine, simply following the raw edges. If you don't have this, you can try using the narrow zigzag stitch. Use thread color that will pop on your fabric so that the shape of the pumpkin will be more defined. Now take the back panel with the wrong side facing and then lay the front panel with the wrong side facing down. Secure with some sewing clips and then base stitch all around with about 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. Next, we're going to work on the main body. So here I've got the front and back panel. They're of the same fabric. Feel free to mix and match different fabric. You don't have to follow exactly what I'm doing here. Lay the back panel with the wrong side facing up. Lay the insulated batting followed with the cotton batting, and then the front panel wrong side down. Now I'm just going to use some pins to secure these layers. If you want to, you can also use spray basting in between the layers so that everything will be nice and secured. But since this is such a small project, pin basting should be pretty sufficient. Alright, now we're gonna go back to the sewing machine and quilt this panel. I stitch with the wavy line stitching that comes with my machine. So this time I don't have to wiggle my hands around to get that wavy stitching. So feel free to quilt this as desired in any design that you like. simple straight stitch lines will work well as well, or you can also do free motion quilting if that's what you prefer. And there you go. Next I'm gonna work on the binding. So I make my own binding in this project from a square of fabric. This is an 11 inch by 11 inch square, which will be sufficient for one pot holder. You can certainly use the pre-made bias tape to save you some time from making your own. So what I'm gonna do here, I'm gonna cut on the diagonal of this square from one corner to the opposite one. So you should end up with 2 triangles. Now from the widest angle of the triangle, I'm gonna measure 2 inches and then cut. Now I'm gonna measure another 2 inches and then cut one more strip here and then toss this little corner. Now I'm gonna do the same to the remaining triangle, and then I'm gonna join all of these strips together and then make the bias tape using the bias tape maker. So this is the same technique that I used when I made the double oven mitts. So if you want to know the rest of the steps on making this type of bias tape, you can refer to that video. I will link that below in the description box. So we're gonna first bind the top edges of the hand pocket. So this is pretty straightforward. So here I open up my binding and align the edges, and then I'm gonna stitch this in place with 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. Now let's flip this over to the back side, secure with some clips, and then we're gonna finish this binding. You can either stitch along the edges there, or you can hand stitch with slip stitches for much neater finish, which is always my preference. Now lay the hand pocket panel on top of the front body panel, aligning the side and the bottom edges of course, and then secure with some sewing clips. If you wish to add a hanging loop, this is the time to do it. Cut a piece of strip from the bias tape about 3.5 inch long. Fold this in half lengthwise unless your bias tape is already in a double fold position, and then stitch the long edges with about 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. Now fold the strip in half, forming a loop. Position this on the back side of the main body at the top center, aligning the raw edges, and then stitch with 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. Now it's time to bind the pot holder. So you can pretty much bind this with your favorite binding method. So I'm going to start somewhere from the side around the center there. So I'm going to secure the starting point with the sewing clip about a couple of inches away from the edge of the binding. So we need that extra fabric to join the edges of the strip later. And then stitch the binding in place with 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. Stop stitching about 4 inches away from the starting point. Now let's overlap the binding strip by 1/2 inch and then cut. We're gonna join the 2 edges of the binding together, but first I like to pinch the pot holder a little bit so that there is enough room to move these binding edges. Open the binding all the way and then stitch them in place with 1/2 inch seam allowance. Once you've attached the binding, trim off the seam allowances around the curve area down to 1/4 of an inch, and then finish the binding as desired. As usual, I love finishing my binding with hand stitching to get the nice and clean look, and I think it's really worth the effort. Now I'm going to briefly talk to you about the solid version. So this is pretty straightforward with the hand pocket. Since there's no applique needs to be attached, so you can right away sandwich with the cotton batting and then quilt as desired. I use the same fabric for everything except of the binding. Use a contrasting bias tape so that it will pop nicely against your main fabric. And that's pretty much it, guys. I am really happy with the result of my pot holders. I think I'm gonna make a couple more of these in Christmas theme for Christmas gifts. Thank you so much for watching, and I shall see you next time. Goodbye.